Isn't she pretty? This is my 2011 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo 4x4. If you're watching this, you might be having a similar issue where your blend door actuator isn't working. So what that means for me anyways was that I would turn the AC on this side, and I would get on both sides, AC on both sides, and then I would get warm air here and I'd get cold air here. This was the site that wasn't working appropriately because I had the AC on. So that means this is the side I need to focus on. So there's two actuators on here and two actuator gears. One over here, one over here. Depending on which side isn't working, that's the side you're gonna have to work on. If you don't mind paying a lot of money, take it to a dealership. I think it's between $1,000 and $1,300 to get it fixed. They're gonna rip out your whole dash, change a little piece of plastic, put it all back together. I'm about 5 months outside of my warranty, so I was on my own, and I'm not the kind of guy that pays that kind of money for work I could do on my own in a few hours. I will tell you, I probably spent about 3 or 4 hours researching in forums and all this other fun stuff. So I was hoping to make a quick video to give you guys a little more info than I had because there's so much kind of junk out there on what it could be. But yeah, I got the 2011. This is what my kind of heater HVAC stuff looks like because there's probably other Chryslers with similar issues. But let me jump into what's going on here, at least with me. Now you can decide if this is something you want to take on at your own risk because it is not easy, but it is possible. And I just did it in my normal garage. I'm just a normal dude who doesn't want to pay $1,300. So this is what normally breaks. This is a gear that goes onto the actuator. Typically they break here and here from what I was reading. That was not the issue with me. It also seems to happen more on the passenger side, which if it does, you're lucky. Might happen on the driver's side. I guess you're not lucky either way, but it sucks no matter what. But it's worse on the driver's side, way harder to do, a lot easier to do on the passenger side. I didn't do that, so I don't have as much information on there, but I do know you pull the glove box, take off some screws, and I think you got access to it. I don't think it's too bad. Driver's side, it's really tight, and expect a good 3-4 hours at least down there. So if it's not this guy, and if you find pieces that look like they connected to this, then you can almost guarantee it's probably this. And this is a $4 part at the dealership, $2 online. This guy I think is like $30 online or $40 online, and $60 at the dealership. And there's your part number. This is called the blend door actuator. So what happens here is this guy spins, turns the door this way, tells the door will blow hot air, turn it this way, the cold air comes in. To find out if it's this, to know for sure, what I did was, because my gear looked fine, so to make sure it was this, I popped these little guys open, and inside I looked at the gears and they were stripped. You want to be careful when you're doing that because you got a lot of gears and funky stuff in there, but you could definitely I could see pieces of gears all in here. Not only the stripped, there was just chunks all over the place. I was like, yep, that's broken. So that's really what goes wrong. I think it's the most common two issues. I'm sure there's other things that could happen, so I can't guarantee this is what it is, but it seems super common. So let's talk about tools you need. Basic tools. I don't know, Phillips, little Phillips heads. You're gonna need a 7mm ratchet. This was the only thing that was weird. There's some other basic tools. Like this guy helped me a little bit here and there when I couldn't reach and hold on to screws. I was trying to tighten back in. But this guy definitely, this 1/4 inch ratchet driver with a T20 bit. Now, believe it or not, that's only what, 3/4 of an inch. That was still long, so I had to cut, for how tight it is, I had to cut about 1/16 or maybe more, like 1/8 of an inch off this tip to give myself a little bit more room in there. That's how tight it was. And then once I cut it with the hacksaw, I even kind of filed it in here. But anyways, yeah, these kind of spin and lock, and you just twist this guy. I found this on Amazon for $8. So there's that. That's very helpful and necessary. Or you can make your own. Some of the guys in the forum have something like this, and they would just put a T-thing, and they would melt wax to keep it still. I found this that kind of locks it in place so it doesn't pop out. That locks the bit in place so it doesn't pop out. So this is probably the only weird tool you need. The rest of the stuff's pretty basic. Let me hop in here and see if I can show you guys what I did. Okay, so most of the dudes in the forums were saying, take this off, take this off, take this off, and even take this off. And I was like, nah, that's not my style. I hate taking off a lot of plastic. I can never see, you can usually get it back, but sometimes you never know if it's going to go back exactly the way it came out. So I was like, let me see how far I can get without doing that. And in hindsight, it might have been better to take all that off because of how tight it is in there. Maybe I would have had a lot more room, but it sounds like no matter what you do, even the guys that took that off, it sounds like it was tough on them and it was tight in there too. But take all that off. In my case, I just took these two off, and I didn't even take it all the way. I just took off the screws down here. There's 1, 2. You can see this little tab right here. 3, 4. I believe those are 7 millimeters. I just took those out, and then I was able to pop it off enough, and I removed this from here too. Pop it off enough to give me about 3-4 inches maybe, just an extra little bit of room. Then I laid on my back down here with my head and eyes facing up, because the part you want to get to is basically straight up from the gas pedal. You can imagine if there was like a laser here, it would be like straight up there. I'm going to try to show you guys, but it's not going to be easy. Then you also got to take off this little piece of felt. That's easy. There's just 2 little plastic clips that hold it. But let me see if I can show you guys where that actuator is to give you an idea. If you want to take something like this on, because it is a pain in the butt. All right, you got to take this piece of plastic. So you got to take off this felt. You got to take off this plastic here. This just snaps off. Let me just bend my felt down here. See? And then this guy, this plastic thing I showed you here, I got to tighten that, but that's you can see where that screws in right here. And then the actuator. Ta-da! This guy right here. Actuator. And that's the other little gear that breaks all the time. Right there. And you can see 1 screw here. There's another screw, and that's the one that's a pain in the butt. You also want to do this when your engine's cool, because these pipes get really hot. Yeah, I found that out the hard way. But they get really hot. So you want to do it when your car's cool, or wear gloves or something, but it's kind of too tight for gloves, so unless they're latex or something. But anyways, yeah, that's what you do. You pop these guys off, you pull off your actuator, you pull off your gear. It's going to be one of those 2 things probably. And you fix it. There's a piece of, there's a little clip that goes into the actuator right in the back of this guy that you got to pull. That clip has like a little red tab you got to kind of pop out with a flathead before it comes out all the way, and you got to put it back in to keep it so it locks in place. But yeah, that's it. It's fun. It was a hell of a job. I think I spent about 3-4 hours out there. Had I had the information that I just gave you, I probably would have spent a lot less time, because I did it thinking it was just the gear to find out it was the actuator. So I got it all in there. I turned it on. The thing wasn't fixed still. So that was frustrating. I called the dealership. Well, I did some more research, and I found out you have to calibrate the actuator. And I was like, are you kidding me? Now I got to calibrate this thing? And they were going to charge me I've heard some people say 7. They were going to charge me 70. I've heard people say up to 120 to recalibrate that little actuator. But then what I did, and seemed to work for me, is in these Jeeps, believe it or not, your battery is under the passenger seat. Sorry, my car's kind of a mess right now, but it's under the passenger seat. So if you move the passenger seat all the way forward, you get to I believe it's a 10 millimeter bolt on top of, and then there's like a little cover you got to pull out. You got to kind of fight with the little cover. It's right directly under this passenger seat. Here, I'll show you that too. Oh, here we go. I don't have it off. So you take off the cover. It's kind of here. It's not too hard. Then you just take off this little bolt right here, and I took off the ground without touching, obviously, positive. You gotta always be careful with that. Pulled that off for about, I don't know, a minute to make sure everything was really dead. Put it all back on, turned everything back on, and ta-da! I had heat. I'm sorry, I had AC where I wanted it and heat when I wanted it. So I'm fixed. I didn't spend $1,300. I spent, I don't know, because I bought the extra part, maybe like $70, $75 with the tool, with the weird little tool I had to buy. And we're golden. Again, 2011 Jeep Grand Cherokee. I hope you don't have to deal with this, but if you do, I hope this was helpful. I'm going to probably throw out some links to some of the, I'm not sure I could do this, but I probably should throw out some links to some of the forums I used, because that was probably the most helpful. Those Jeep forum guys are great. It's always on there. I always want to kind of participate and help out on the forums, but it's all there. If you have other issues, just jump on one of those forums. They're really good. But yeah, hope this is helpful. Like I said, if you have the passenger side, I guess it's easier. Supposedly, you just take all, I don't know exactly where everything is, but you take this all out, and it's somewhere deep down in here. But it's supposed to be a lot easier than what I had to do. Of course, it's at your own risk. I'm no mechanic, but damn thing works now. And I think it's just kind of funny. Last thing I wanted to add was that if you look at my other videos, I have the exact same issue on a very similar issue on a 2011 Jeep. It was the actuator, but it happened to be the wiring that they use, cheap wiring there. And it's like that Jeep, it's the exact same white Grand Cherokee, but exactly 12 years older, and it has the same issues. It's only two issues that were really bad on these outside of normal maintenance. So I just hope Jeep could kind of fix that. But thanks for your time. Hope this is helpful.